Hi, welcome back to the channel, Human Eating Plants. Today I'm going to show you the basics of sprouting, and then I will also make some detailed videos showing you step by step from start to finish on how to sprout and grow microgreens. Right here I've got, these are radish sprouts and broccoli sprouts. And these I'm actually using sprouting jars, which you don't have to sprout at all. You can use regular jars that you have already at home, or they make other jars too as well that you can use for sprouting. But I'm just going to show you the basics of what you need to kind of get you started. So here, these are just some random food jars that I had here at the house. When you sprout, what you want is preferably glass. They do make some plastic ones. I do try to stay away from plastic as much as possible, but that's your own personal choice. What you're looking for, though, is a jar that is big. So, like, this is the biggest one here. And you also want one that you can fit your hand into. So this is not a good one to use for sprouting. Can't get your hand down in there. So what happens when you sprout is a lot of times the seeds, as they grow into little plants, they get really compact and dense in there, and you need to reach in and break it up. So a jar that you can get your hand into is what you really want. And the bigger the better, because you can just grow more. This size is fine for like a small seed like broccoli and radish, alfalfa, things like that, as long as you're not doing too many at once. But your larger beans and lentils, legumes, those sorts of things, you do want a much larger jar. And you also need some cheesecloth and rubber bands, because these jars here actually already have a screen lid on them. They're great, very handy for sprouting, but definitely not needed, not necessary. I didn't use them for a long time. I was just able to come across them and got a really good deal on them, so that's why I'm using them. But these are just some different types of beans and lentils that I do. These are a moth bean. This one right here is probably my favorite to sprout. It's called horse graham. It's a lentil. It's called horse graham here in the United States. It does have an actual name. I'm not going to try to pronounce it though. This is fed mostly to racehorses, is why we call it horse graham. But if you think about how big and strong and fast a racehorse is, well, probably food that I want to eat too. But these are my favorite to sprout. They sprout really well. They have a lot of nutrients in them, a lot of health benefits, and a lot of protein too, if that's something that's important to you. And then these are Urad beans right here. I like these two as well. These aren't large beans, either one of these, and these lentils obviously are not big either. I have a problem with some seeds and beans and things like that. The larger they are, I've had problems sprouting them. I think the smaller ones do better, but that is just my personal opinion. I actually have some of the Urad beans sprouting right now. They are up here covered with a towel because the broccoli and the radish sprouts are actually done. This is their final day. So I have set them out and put them in the sun so they can turn green. While you're actually sprouting, they're white or like a very pale yellow color. So you can see such a big difference in the color between the Urad and then the broccoli and the radish sprouts. Just so pretty. Look at that beautiful green color. Just so pretty. But I am going to go ahead and cover these back up. The Urad sprouts are on about day 3. Both the broccoli and the radish sprouts are on, I think it's day 5. And that's usually pretty typical with your sprouts. Most are between 4 to 6 days in that area. Sorry, I'm trying to cover those back up. Don't want the light getting in on them. Okay. Most of the time while they are sprouting, I actually keep them in my pantry. You could do in your pantry or a kitchen cabinet, or like an extra, if you have like an empty closet that you don't use, anything like that. You just don't want the sun in on them. And you definitely don't have to have this, it's actually just a dish rack, but a drying rag to put your sprouts on. You can easily set them at an angle in a bowl. You just want to make sure that you're using something that's pretty sturdy and can hold the weight, because these are pretty heavy jars. And obviously, that way the balance of it, you don't want it to tip over and break. I've had that happen before using a much smaller bowl. It's a bad idea. So make sure you're using a bowl that can hold the weight of your jar, and it should work pretty well. But basically, all you need to get started is your glass jars. Any glass jar, as long as you can get your hand in it. And then you can use cheesecloth to cover it. And then you just simply put a rubber band around it. And what you would do on day one is you're just going to soak your seeds, beans, lentils, legumes, whatever you're doing, overnight. And then the next morning, you're going to get up and you're going to drain them. So that's where the cheesecloth or the screen comes in. So you would take it, pour it out, give them a good rinse, and then you're going to cover them back up. And then you're going to put them in your bowl, tipped on their side, to drain, or like I have mine on, a simple dish rack. Either works just fine. I still use both, actually. Most of the time while they are in my pantry, they are in a bowl, and I use the rack for when they're out actually in the sun. So however you want to do it is great. You can get seeds, broccoli seeds here. These are organic broccoli sprouting seeds. I've also got some radish sprouting organic seeds here. And I showed you these. Also, I've got some pea sprouts. I'm doing some microgreens with these for pea shoots. So I'll also do another video on those. But sprouts are just a great way to add nutrients into your diet. It is a live, living food, which means that it's still growing. It's still alive when you eat it. And if you think about it, most of us eat dead food, whether it be a dead animal or processed, boxed, just not even really food, or produce that's been sent across the country, across the globe, and then it sits in a store, a way for you to buy it, and then you bring it home, and it sits on your shelf or in your fridge until you decide to eat it or cook it, and by that time, it's probably rotting, probably decaying, and you're going to cook most of the nutrients out of it. I try to keep my food as close to its natural form as possible with very minimal processing. So when you consume sprouts, you're actually consuming something that's alive. And you can just think about what that would do for your body and your cells and all the nutrients you would get off of it. They're just the most nutrient-dense food there is. And if you take broccoli, if you eat a whole plate full of broccoli, which most of us cannot do, I don't like broccoli that much to eat it. So instead, you just take a handful of broccoli sprouts. You can put them on your salad, on a sandwich, just anything where you'd like a little green, crunchy deliciousness. And you're going to have the equivalent of eating like 10 plates of broccoli. So it just makes sense, especially trying to eat as nutrient dense as possible, of why you'd want to eat sprouts. So in a few days, I will be making a more detailed video from start to finish on sprouting. But until then, if you'd like to gather up some supplies, and that way you can come back and sprout with me. Like I said, it's just a great way to add some really yummy, nutrient-dense food into your diet. Some of them are protein-packed, vitamins, just everything is so dense in these little tiny plants. So come back and sprout with me. And just be a human eating plants. Till next time.